So as you know, my talk is a part of a series of Dharma talks discussing Eihei Dogen's Shobogenzo. So the Shobogenzo is a collection of his writings collected as fascicles. And Dogen was the founder of our school, Soto Zen, and he lived in Japan from about 1200 to 1252. So today my fascicle is Shoho Jizo, the real marks of the Dharma. All Dharmas are real form, and the reality of all things. He said, real form is all Dharmas. All Dharmas are real forms. Forms as they are. Natures as they are, bodies as they are, mind as it is, world as it is. The Buddha said that the ultimate state of equilibrium of substance and detail are the self-expression of the real form of all Dharmas. So what does that mean? What I think it means is that everything is real just as it is, real in this moment, coming and going, appearing and disappearing, swirling energies of all things expressing the Dharma. True reality in every moment. There's nothing hidden or obscured. It is just as it is, right now. Nothing more, nothing less. Dogen says in the Genjo Koan, firewood becomes ash and does not become firewood again. So if you wake to the harsh alarm of in the morning, or you hear a soft song coming from your clock, or the birds outside, or your dog licking you in the face, telling you it's time to wake up, all of this is reality, nothing else. Then you get into the warm shower, that's reality, and then you slog through the Houston traffic, that is true reality. Things are just as they are in that very moment. So Dogen was inspired by a passage in the Lotus Sutra which points to the ultimate indescribable reality underlying all phenomena. Not something separate, just their true nature, just as they are. It is not something beyond the world or behind the world, but the world itself. A world that we can meet directly and wholeheartedly. We might think that really experiencing the true nature of things is really just left to Zen masters or Buddhist scholars or monks, or those who are somehow enlightened. But Dogen says no. The true aspect is the world itself, right now, right here. There is no separate enlightenment waiting somewhere or in some other time. The true nature of all things is revealed exactly here, in this very moment, in your very life. Here's something else. Since there's no separation or duality, all dharmas, all reality exists in everything. So if I show you this cup, I'm saying to you, this is a cup, real in this moment, so is the water. I'll have a little drink. This is real, existing just as it is. But also here in this cup is all the sand that made the glass, all the manufacturing, all the wind and air, everything that made this, the distribution people, the people that brought this cup to Houston. That's all here right now in this cup. And something more. Everything else is also here. The mountains, the rivers, kindness, sadness, hatred, all here, everything right here. All these energies swirling around, communicating with everything else, spoken and unspoken, coming and going. You didn't really know that all that was here when you took a little sip from your cup, now did you? A few weeks ago, I got to take a wonderful trip to Italy, and I was so lucky to be able to do it. And it was the first time I went to these parts of that country. So we spent a few days in Florence, and as you know, Florence is the seat of the Renaissance. The history of the Renaissance is there, the incredible paintings, and the churches, and the museums, and the sculptures, all are there. and the great, amazing effort of architecture and construction to build all these buildings and bridges and museums. Just amazing. And to get an idea of the relationship that these people must have had with the stone and the paint and the rivers, everything right there, and the food sources and the religious life. All the history, all there, right there in that present moment when I was there. So since I've been thinking about this for a while, I looked at the statue of David, so grand, so massive, so incredibly powerful and beautiful, and I thought, all of the people that are there, Michelangelo, all the ancestors, all the people of his time, all the people now, even Dogen, right there with me in this true reality. Then we went to a farmhouse in Tuscany, magnificent landscapes, fields full of grapevines and olive trees. And I thought winemakers really understand, along with other kinds of farmers, something about interdependence. So if you're a person who drinks wine, when you have a glass of wine, you're tasting the variety of the grape, the soil it was grown in, the geography, the air, the wind. You're tasting the season, the barrels that they were aged in, and the winemaker's expertise that's been handed down from generation to generation in families. And the winemaker's expertise in tasting the grape and knowing when it's ripe and when it's time to harvest. All of that there, you get the idea. Then in that glass of wine or that taste of olive oil, all the history, all the experience is right there that you taste, right in that moment. So I've been telling you a lot of lovely aspects about the world. And we all know that all of reality isn't what we call pretty or nice. And I was thinking about my father. So when World War II broke out, he was of the age that he was given a choice to leave the military or stay. And he chose not to go to war. And it turned out that every person in his company was killed in Italy by Mussolini's army. And I thought if I had gone to Rome, I could see where Mussolini gave his speeches. I could be on the same streets that the army marched on. All of that was there too, right in that very moment. So what Dogen also says in this fascicle is that all Dharmas are Buddha. Another way of saying the true marks of everything is Buddha. Everything that we think is an object of feeling and experience, all glass, walls, tiles, all Buddha. So Suzuki Roshi says, if I say, I am Buddha, it would be saying, I, Buddha, am Buddha, 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 Buddha. When we practice, we're practicing all things Buddha. Mountains, rivers, trees, people, love, hate, all Buddha. Even the people in this government that we don't like or that we find are causing objectionable things to happen and great deal of suffering in people, Buddha. So Buddha is all things. Knowing this doesn't mean that we are passive or complacent. It doesn't mean that I don't feel angry or heartbroken about the injustice and meanness and suffering that I see. All these, though, however, are manifestations of this very reality. So how do we come to realize more of this in our lives? So I like to say, I'm a psychotherapist, and when people come to me and we're talking about some problem that they have, and I say, how do you think this started? What is the source of this? How do you think you learned these behaviors or learned to have these feelings? And they struggle with that. And I say, in therapy, mom and dad are always good ideas. So in Buddhism, when someone says, how do we gain this awareness? How do we teach ourselves? Zazen is always a good idea and always a good answer. Because usually we're seeing this world in a fog of comparison and judgment and duality. This is beautiful, this is ugly, this is sacred, this is ordinary, I like you, I don't like you. And in doing so, we're dividing ourselves into something that is not dividable, because all of reality exists at once. So when we sit Zazen, we start to experience that the fog clears. Sitting quietly, not chasing our thoughts, not rejecting them, we begin to see things as they really are. A sound is just a sound, a thought is just a thought, the breath, the body, the floor beneath us, all shining in their own completeness. In that moment, there's nothing to add and nothing to take away. That is just as it is. That is Shoho Jizo. So Dogen also said that practice and realization are one. So that means that our practice is not a path toward realization. It is realization unfolding. Each bow, each breath, each step is the true aspect expressing itself. We don't practice to become Buddhas. Our practice is the Buddha's expression coming through us. So the mountains don't try to be mountains, they just simply are. The river doesn't try to flow, it just simply flows. And we too don't need to be anything else. We need to be just completely this, completely alive, completely present. When we meet life in this way, we find that everything is preaching the Dharma. The sound of the birds, the aches in our knees or our backs during Zazen, all are voices of this true aspect. Nothing is outside it. Suzuki Roshi says that when we realize this, we truly become ourselves. So when you become yourself, at that moment, your practice includes everything. Whatever it is, it's a part of you. When you sit shikantaza, which means just sitting, you are practicing with everything. The landscape, our loved ones, the ones we don't like, past and future. Dogen said, if you don't practice with everything, it's not real practice. So I would say to you that whether you know it or not, you are already practicing with everything. There are so many ways that Zen practice offers us opportunities to experience the reality of all things. I've mentioned Zazen, of course, mindfulness too, but more than just noticing, it's our way to pay attention with respect and acknowledgement of the thing, the reality, Buddha. So the way we walk into the zendo, the way we hold the teacup, the way we move our cushions, with our hands with respect, not our feet, bowing to each other and the Buddha. That kind of mind and presence for us takes in our whole lives. This morning we participated in the full moon ceremony. The precepts were chanted, and for so many of us, we renewed our vow to follow them, our ethical code. We were also reminded that the Buddhas and the ancestors are very omnipresent in reality in every moment. And Gayle and Roshi reminded us that we bow with gratitude to everything and everyone for our lives and this reality. So isn't this an amazing way to look at our lives? Aren't we so lucky to have this teaching? It feels like a miracle. In fact, though, it's only a miracle if we think it's extraordinary, something separate. But we know that everything is together. So it becomes really ordinary because it's omnipresent. It's everywhere and everything. Noticing true reality in the most ordinary things is a very rich experience. You know, Dogen was not very prescriptive or directive about what we should do with this information. Maybe because he, with respect, knew that we would all follow our own paths and figure out what it meant to us and move toward our own true realization. But I've been thinking about what knowing this and even experiencing the truth of it from one moment to another moment might mean in my life, how it might affect how I look at things or feel or experience things. I wouldn't begin to tell you what your experience might be, because everyone has his or her own. But I can tell you what I've noticed for myself. I've noticed the beauty of everything, even a little bit more, and even in the parts I don't like. There is something of value and something extraordinarily ordinary in everything. And for me, that takes me to this kind of wonder about this reality that we live in. Just wondrous. And I get to just sit with it in Zazen or any time in my life to just realize I am in the middle of this amazing way the world works and is. And maybe I would stop judging some, you know. It's all one reality really working perfectly. And I see my husband there who might disagree with this, but I want to say I think overall I'm judging a little less. So I want to consider which parts of this reality I want to cultivate. What do I want to see grow in myself? What do I attend to? What do I focus on? Because what I focus on really matters, and what I cultivate really grows. And I find that I can love everything just a little bit more. The trees, the birds, the floor, everything just a little bit more. Even if it takes a little stretch, I can find it. So realizing that all of reality is contained in everything, and everything Buddha, everything becomes just a little more precious. So putting the incense in the bowl, in seeing the face of the people I care about, it all becomes just a little more sacred, a little more precious. And finally, to me, it implies a sense of responsibility, because knowing how the world works means that I have an effect on the whole world too. So may I make a suggestion to all of you that you spend a little bit of time every day or today just thinking about the reality of all things, looking at something with that in mind, that in that thing all reality is contained. And whatever you see or hear or do, all things are real, all things are all reality, and all things Buddha. So thank you so much.